Okay, welcome to our Find Your Next Six-Figure Infill Deal call. We do this every Tuesday at 2 p or sorry, every Friday at 2 p.m. And we cover the best infill deals of the week and the infill deal of the week, and then the best other infill deals that we have. I'm just going to go over some of the details of how to gain access to our list full time and how it works. So we have our infill deal list that I'll show you here in a few minutes, but it's basically a list that we track all of the potential infill deals in Boise, Garden City, and Meridian right now. We might expand out further, but right now those are the best deals that we see. And then yeah, so the people that have access to the list full time, there's probably about 30 now, get the first access to the deals. And then every Friday around noon, we send it out to our list of people that have access and also people that have shown interest. And then if the deals don't sell over the weekend, what we're going to start doing here is actually sending it out to a wider network. And so basically anybody that has access to the list is going to have first access to these deals as we present them. Some of them it's, they come on the market on Friday morning and then we present them at 2 p.m. on Friday. Some of them have been on the market for a little while. Just kind of depends. But in order to get full-time access, basically, if you are a realtor, we just have you either attend or rewatch sessions 1 and 2 that we present on infill development and our new construction process. And then we also have a part 3 that covers how to review the list, how to look at it, how to analyze it, how to look at those numbers and what we do with those. Then we just have you sign an agreement stating that if you're going to use our strategies that we're suggesting with buyers, that you'll introduce us to your buyers early on in the process. And then also at some point, we're going to add an NDA that we're actually having our investors sign as well. And then one of the things for realtors that we do is we have an opportunity for free marketing campaigns. So we provide marketing materials to our realtor partners that you can co-brand with us and send it out to your buyer network. And that's for free. And then if you're an investor, so if you're not a realtor, so you also can get access to the list. We just make sure that you have a signed buyer's representative agreement with a sponsoring realtor that has access to the list as well. So there's a couple parts to that. Number one is if you don't already have a realtor that you're working with, we can refer you to one of the people that have already been through our training. Or if you have somebody that you're already under contract with or working with that you prefer to work with, they can also get access to the list. They just have to go through that training and sign the agreement. So just a little bit extra step for them, but you can still use them if you want to. And then we just also have you watch our webinar sessions 1 and 2 on infill development and new construction. It's kind of the same thing as the realtors watch. It's just geared more towards investors versus geared towards realtors. And then we also have you rewatch the session 3 on the deal list on how to review it. And then we just have you sign a non-disclosure agreement, and it's kind of a non-compete a little bit as well. So it just states that if you're going to use our services and implement our strategy, you'll use us on the identified properties. And then the NDA part of it is just that you're not going to share any of our strategy or basic confidential information that we've created. And then just to cover kind of how we make our money. So part of the reason why we created this was to help other investors capitalize on opportunities that are out on the market that I can't possibly do all of them myself. And so it also created an opportunity for me as a business to create value for people and make money from it. So that's always a win-win. But basically, we make money by number one, we charge a consulting fee that we charge at closing. And what that is so if it's just a single lot split up to 4 additional units, we charge $10,000 through the end of the year. Starting January 1st, that's going up to $15,000. And then if it's a larger subdivision from 5 to 10 units, we do $15,000. That goes up to $25,000 at the beginning of the year. And then for each additional lot after 10, if it's a larger or medium-sized subdivision, we charge right now $1,000 per lot after that first 15,000 or 25,000, and then January 1st it's going up to 2,000. Even with all those numbers, so all of our numbers factor in what we charge. So at every level, and when we start going over the list, I'll kind of show you. But all the numbers that you guys see that we present to you factors in all of our costs along the way. So then another way that we make money is during the entitlements. So we basically are vertically integrated from entitlements all the way through occupancy. And so we run through the entitlements with you or for you. We still hire out professionals like engineers, that kind of thing, but we just do the project management on that, and we charge $150 an hour per hour worked. So that's just typically on a normal subdivision that we usually factor about 100 hours that's going to take for entitlements, and that basically just keeps the ball rolling on entitlements and make sure it goes through and gets approved as quickly as possible. And then the other side of it that, this is where most builders and developers make money is just on the general contracting. So we do the general contracting on the horizontal and on the vertical. You'll find that, with our numbers, we're not the most expensive builder or developer. In fact, on the development side and on the building side, a lot of times we're going to end up being less than a lot of other places. So we're not raking you over the coals on costs. We're, basically it's a win-win where we're making what we need to make, and then we're also making sure there's enough meat on the bone for you guys. All right, and then we're going to get into our guarantee offer here. So one of the things, some of you may have heard me talk about already or not, but we actually offer a guarantee. We call it our 6 figures in 36 months or less infill deal offer. And basically the reason why we created this is because we've realized that the people that we're kind of presenting this to don't really know anything about development or building. And so we wanted to create a system and a process that works for everybody. And basically makes you feel more comfortable. And so the reason why we did this is because we're confident in our system and our process and our costs. And so we're also basically going to do the deal along with you, and then we're going to put skin in the game in the form of a profit guarantee. And I'll kind of explain how that works here as we go along. But essentially, the reason why it works for you is that a lot of investors are concerned about losing money on a bad deal, or not knowing the process, or making a mistake on their first deal. They're worried about projects dragging on too long, contractors cutting corners, or just not having control or visibility. I know a lot of investors have passively invested in real estate investment trusts or syndications, and you just don't have any control in those situations. In the way we've set the system up is you actually own the deal. You buy the property. All we're doing is you're just hiring us to do all the work. We're vertically integrated, so we can do everything from start to finish. And we know all the numbers and all the process. Part of that though too is because we're start to finish, we can design the project to be the most profitable as possible. We'll get into some dialogue later on, but essentially, because we're able to start with the end in mind and work our way backwards, and we're involved in every single step, we can basically design it and have input into how it makes it the most profitable for you as the investor that's buying the deal. So the core components of our offer, number one is expert deal underwriting. So we vet, analyze, and underwrite every infill deal on our list. So we don't just estimate numbers. We've done every step ourselves on our own projects. And so we know where costs and timelines can go wrong. Number two is offer negotiation support. So we guide you and your realtor on how to structure and present offers. So since we've been the buyer ourselves many times, we know how to get deals accepted. Number three is step-by-step due diligence. So you're never left in the dark. We actually have a 15-page due diligence checklist. So as soon as you're under contract on a property, we share that with you for that property. You can follow along. You're responsible for about 10% of the due diligence checklist that has to do with financing, and if you're keeping any of them as rentals or renting out the house that you buy, part of that is up to you. And then we do about 90% of it ourselves. Number four is renovation of the existing house. So some of our deals are just purely land and there's no renovation of a house, and then some of them there's an existing house that we're splitting. And so I'd say out of all of our deals that we're splitting a lot off from an existing house. The existing house needs renovation probably 30% of the time or so in order for it to be livable or rentable. And so we can renovate that as well. So we have background I basically got started in investing myself by doing renovations on houses I lived in. So basically house hacking duplexes, and then transitioned into flipping full time. And so basically we have that background so we can renovate the existing house if that's necessary. Number 5 is entitlement management. So we manage the entitlement process with the city. I've kind of found, some tricks of the trade on how to get things going through the process as quickly as possible. The one thing I will say about entitlements is everybody's always surprised at how long it takes. So we try to set those expectations properly, but we try to also manage it effectively so we're not taking longer than needed. Number 6 is the horizontal development. So that's basically putting in, all the infrastructure that's needed to build a house. So that's another thing people are sometimes surprised about. But when we're doing new lots, basically there's new infrastructure that needs to go in. So sometimes that's upgrading. Most of the time it's upgrading power, extending sewer lines, water lines, curb gutter, sidewalk, sometimes widening roads. And that's all factored into our cost too. So since we've done this stuff, we pretty much know what the city is going to require of us. There are things that come up with every deal that that we have to do, but we try to do our best to estimate those when we go into it. And then number 7, vertical construction. So we're a builder as well. So we can build from once we're ready to go vertical. And then hand you over the keys when it's ready. And then you basically can list that for sale or keep them as rentals or whatever your strategy is. So a couple bonus offers that we have as well. So number 1 is we're going to give you the ultimate guide introduction to infill development. So we basically have an ebook on basically explaining what infill development is and where the opportunity is in infill development. We're also going to provide you with our 15-page due diligence checklist, which is, I was joking with Brock yesterday, it's probably going to increase to 20 pages after one of our most recent deals that we're going through. And then bonus offer number 3 is before the end of due diligence, we're going to provide you with a 1-page underwriting worksheet. So that's what we base our guarantee on, which we'll cover here in a minute. That just acts as the final go or no go on your underwriting for you to base your final investment decision on. So when we get into the list here, so just so you guys understand, so this is a very high level review. So we've done our best to estimate numbers, but once you have something under contract, that's where we really dig in and dive into comprehensively what everything is going to take. And so those numbers can go up or down basically during that due diligence process. Sometimes it turns out better, sometimes it turns out not as profitable. And then that's the point where we say, we present you this underwriting worksheet and you say whether you want to move forward with it or not. And that's while you're in your due diligence time still, so you can back out if you need to. I'd say 95% of the time, the deal is going to look great and you're going to move forward with it. But occasionally something comes up where it just isn't as feasible as we thought it was. Bonus offer number 7 is we're going to provide you with our entitlement process checklist and projected timeline. So that's basically just going to show you what all is required to get through entitlements, and then we'll give you an estimated timeline of each of those steps. And then we're going to give you our construction process and inspection checklist for the the construction phases. And so one thing that we do as well, so part of that is number 6 then, is we do a third-party new home inspection report inspected at 4 and sometimes 5 phases. And so what that is, every time we build a house, we actually hire a third-party inspector to come in and inspect it at framing and rough-ins, drywall, interior and exterior finishes, and then the final inspection. Sometimes the 5th inspection is just the final inspection, because sometimes the final inspection, there's still maybe half a dozen or a dozen items on there that just need to be finished. If they're big enough, then we'll have them come back and inspect it again, so you have a final clean report. But that basically just allows you to see basically what's happening inside the walls as well. So you're getting a good product at the very end, and you see that if there were any issues that came up during construction, that they were addressed and how they were addressed. Bonus offer number 7 is we're going to host a monthly progress call. I anticipate that starting at the end of January. And that's where we're going to review all our current projects for clients as well as our own, and any progress that was made as well as any challenges that came up. And then we'll also have follow-up calls for individual projects that clients own if they want. And that can be scheduled as needed. But this monthly progress call is actually going to be open to anybody that wants to join. So anybody that's, considering buying a project or already has bought a project or is invested in one of our deals, we're basically going to cover it all and kind of cover the progress that's made every month. Bonus offer number 8. So we're going to provide you with an entitlements guarantee. So this is part of our guarantee. So number 1, so the biggest part about this is that, so we're going to guarantee that if we don't achieve the unit count that we underwrite at that final underwriting, we're going to waive our next fee or apply it towards development costs. So what that means is, so on this deal I'm going to present today, so we are guaranteeing that we can, well, I wouldn't say guarantee now because we have to get through entitlements, but if whoever buys it and gets it through the due diligence phase, at the end of due diligence, if we say we can add 5 lots to this subdivision, then if it gets through entitlements and we only get 4 lots, then basically we're waiving our fee, or we're going to apply that towards the development costs. And so basically it's kind of, we're putting our skin in the game, saying that we know that we can do what we say we're going to be able to do. Then number 9, so this is the big one. This is where we're going to provide you with an underwriting guarantee. So we guarantee that if the project doesn't meet at least 100% of the cash flow or projected profit at final underwriting, we're going to refund you up until it does, and that's up to $50,000 per deal. So that was the original offer. Now that we're doing some more of these, small and medium subdivisions that are multiple units, we're probably going to change this so it's actually more than $50,000 per deal and more like maybe 20,000 per house or something. So you actually have a little bit larger guarantee. But either way, we're basically going to project protect your profits. So let's say, for example, you buy a deal and we say, okay, you're going to make $100,000. If it all comes down to the end and we go and sell that property, and when it's all said and done, you've only made $75,000. We're actually withholding $50,000 of our own profits until the very end. And then we're going to reimburse you for whatever you didn't make that we said we were going to make. And that's, again, there's going to be a limit on that, but that's basically just to protect us from, going too far in the hole as well. But essentially we're guaranteeing our profits for your profits. So you're rolling this, so you're making the big decisions, we do the heavy lifting. So you're basically buying the property, where there's going to be some communication along the way, but basically we're going to kind of set it up so that it meets what your objectives and goals are as an investor. So for example, if you're buying the deal to basically build it out and rent all the units at the end, we're going to set up the deal so that it's maximizing those rental projections. And so then we're going to base our guarantee off of that. And so we're basically going to structure the whole deal so that it's a good rental. If your objective is to just buy the property, split off the units and sell them all, then we're going to make sure that it's the most profitable as possible to sell everything. And then the timeline. So the target is 6 figures in 36 months or less. If delays occur or we get to a point where it's not as feasible as it once was, the nice thing about development is that there's multiple exit strategies. So, when we go to buy a deal, or when you go to buy a deal, there's 4 major exit strategies. Number 1 is you could just get it on paper and not even do anything. You really just take a feasible plan and improve it from what it is on the market, and just advertise it like that. And then a lot of times, there's not a huge profit margin there, but you can usually make a profit on that. Number 2 is then there's entitlement. So once it's fully entitled, you can sell it at a profit typically. And then once you have it developed, so that's when you have buildable lots, you can sell individual lots for a profit. And then at the final one is when you have a final built out product. So typically you're increasing your profits as you go, and we prefer to work with people that that your objective is to go all the way through to the end. Essentially, like, we're making money at every step, or we're making income at every step, but our biggest profitability is if we go all the way through the build. So we prefer to go all the way through that and work with people that's their goal as well, and that's where everybody wins the most. So your protections, you always have visibility into the cost, timelines, and progress, and then you hold full ownership in the deal. So we only get paid when the deal performs. So our incentives are aligned with yours. So because of our profit guarantee, we're not making a profit essentially unless you're making a profit. Okay, and then why us? So we specialize in infill development. So we do small multifamily ADU, single family subdivisions, the exact strategies that cities like Boise are encouraging. And then we've already figured out the business the hard way. So we've intentionally set up the system, built the system from scratch on how to do this and how to help other investors profit from it. As far as I know, so I'm a part of a few different investor groups nationwide and locally. And as far as I know, there's not a program or a system that's built like this anywhere in the country. So it's not really well known. There's people that do it individually on one-off properties. So they might do one or two every couple of years, but nobody's actually like identified and built a system like we have that helps people profit from new construction and development. Okay, so that was a mouthful. I like to cover that because people watch YouTube videos and it gives more information. Does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff I covered?
Actually, I was just gonna ask, could you, after this is over, send me those bullet points you just went through? I don't know if you have a PowerPoint or whatever for that.
Yeah.
Is when I'm talking to clients, explaining that guarantee and having something in writing to talk to them about, I think would be really effective for that conversation. So if you have
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
because I
I
mean,
will.
I've already worked with you before now on 2 deals, and that's the first time I've heard that. So it would be good for me to
Yeah,
have that, and I think it might be compelling for, other investors. So
yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, the first deal you did, or your client did, we were
yeah.
just starting to build this out, so we didn't have it fully finished. But yeah, we've absolutely. I can send it to you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. So we're going to cover the deal of the week. Let me pull it up here first. Okay, we're going to cover the deal of the week, and then we'll cover some of the other deals on the market. Okay, so the deal of the week is the address is 5611 West Hill Road. So this has actually been on the market for a little while. I think I first put it on my list in October. And originally, so it was actually, I think, priced higher originally also, not by much, but also originally I actually didn't think it was as good of a deal. And so I kind of didn't really fully look at it until a couple weeks ago. And then I also just actually, did the actual further underwriting on it today, and it improved. So it's funny how sometimes, you look at a deal and then when you actually look further into it, it ends up being better. So I'm going to show you what house it is. So it's this property right here. So this is on Hill Road. It's on almost an acre. And I think this property has been remodeled somewhat recently. In fact, I think in the notes, so it has a newer kitchen there. So it's pretty nice. There are a couple rooms that they're like the colors and stuff are a little funky, but still definitely rentable and livable. We actually have this underwritten if you're not going to live in it. So we do have some clients that are looking for primary residence as well. So you can either, buy it and live in it, or most of our investors are going to look at this as an investment. And so basically we have it underwritten to rent this out as an Airbnb. So the nice thing with it is a large house. It's got 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. And it's pretty great location for for an Airbnb. You know, it's close to the foothills, it's near enough downtown, and it's also near enough to like Highway 44 where they'd go north, especially during the winter. So nice big garage and a big yard and everything. So would be, I think, a good Airbnb. So I'm gonna pull up the site plan. Okay. So originally, when I looked at this, I wasn't sure what we could do. I actually had a few more houses on here, but realistically, so we would take in basically one common road off a hill road. And it's actually where the driveway is existing. So we'd basically just turn this into a private street, and then we'd pull in access off of here. So we'd have two houses facing Hill Road here, and then another two back behind, and then another house beside the existing house. So there's plenty of room. These are all meet the minimum lot size requirements. Originally, I thought we could get one or two more lots in there, and it still might be possible depending on how this road gets looked at. But if it's a, you know, private street or whatever, you basically can't use that as part of the lot. And so this basically meets all the lot size requirements, setbacks, all that fun stuff. But that's the setup that we have. And then get back into the okay. So purchase price is 989,500 for just the house the way it is. If you don't factor in the land, I ran the comps and it looks like it'd probably sell for around 925 most likely if it wasn't on larger piece of land. And it has been on the market for a little while too. So, you know, the one thing I'll say is, you know, a lot of these deals, especially if they've been on the market a lot of times, you know, we do end up seeing them sell for less than list price. I don't want to make any promises there, but I would say if you want to approach it and try to get a better deal on it, sometimes you have that opportunity on the purchase if it's been on the market for a little while. This is basically the per lot cost over what we feel like the existing home value is. So sometimes you pay a premium on the land. Really the reason why our system works is we identify properties where you're not paying a ton extra for the land. So you're creating value because you're creating value from improving the land. And the reason why this works too is that land doesn't have value until you actually improve it. So I had this conversation with another realtor, but you know, a lot of times, you know, realtors that aren't familiar with development, they think, you know, if their house is sitting on, or a client's house is sitting on an acre, that it's worth all this, you know, a lot more money. And most of the time it's not worth that much more money because essentially there's a lot of cost that goes into developing it. So you have to entitle it, you have to develop it, and then you can build on it. It's not like you can just build 5 houses on this without doing anything. You have to put in all the infrastructure and there's cost to that. And the reason why this works is because you don't realize those profits until you put all that potential in. Okay, so then we have our entitlement costs. This is entitlement cost per lot. So this is factoring in our fees and then what all the engineering would take and all that fun stuff. And then in development costs, so this is factoring in having to bring in sewer from Hill Road. I did look, it looks like it's in Hill Road, worst case scenario on the lot next door, basically, in Hill Road. But it looks like it is serviceable from Hill Road, probably right in front of the existing house. And then it looks like water is also inside Hill Road. So this is bringing in water and sewer, drainage, upgrading power, the roads and sidewalks, all that fun stuff. And then this is what we look at the new lot value if you were to sell it to a builder. Sometimes these can sell for a little bit more if you have the patience to wait for the right buyer that wants to build their dream home, for example. We just underwrite these pretty conservatively. So like if you want to get them all developed and then sold, and a builder still has profit margin in there, this is what I would look at buying it for and still have a profit margin to build and sell. And then this is what your profit is on a per lot basis. So if you apply that by 5, you get about a $300,000 profit. What we don't factor in there in this price is the profit or loss on the existing house, which I'll cover here in a second. So this is just the per lot basis.
Question.
And then this is, what's
Question
that?
on that number real quick. Does that 60,000 per lot include putting in the streets and the sidewalks and stuff that are required?
Yeah.
So they're like
So basically we
build
take
ready.
this. Yeah, exactly. So
Okay,
that's if you sell them at 175. This is after sales costs on this 175, and then it's taking off this the development cost per lot, the entitlement
okay,
cost per lot, and also the extra land cost that you're paying.
okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if it included putting in that private street and stuff.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
thanks.
And then
Hey,
the
Zach,
yeah,
can you hear me? Can I just
yep,
ask a quick question about the additional cost for land over the home price of
yeah,
12,900?
yep,
How are you coming up with that number? Just out of curiosity.
yeah. So we took, and again, this is like kind of a high level. So we do like we don't do like a full CMA on this. We do like I do like a quick like, okay, what do I think this is the value of this house is
Yeah.
if it's not sitting on a large lot.
Yeah.
And so it looks to me like it's worth 925 if you don't factor that it's on a large lot like this.
Okay.
So it is a 3,000 square foot house, so it's a good size house. So then this number is just based on this minus the sales price right here, the list price,
Yep.
minus the 925 divided by the 5 lots that we can get out of it.
Understood. Thank you for clarifying.
Yep. So on most of our deals, we try to get this as close to 0 as possible, because then you do have these costs that have to go into it to be able to get some kind of profit from it. And some of the deals that are on here too, you'll notice, like if you have access to the list, sometimes there's deals that you don't make any money on the lot, or there's a loss of money on the lot if you sell it. And most of the time, those don't make our deal of the week, just because we want to make sure that it's at the bare minimum break even at every level, but ideally profitable at every level. So if you have to exit at some point, you're going to make money. Okay, so then we look at the ideal bed, bath, and square foot. And then if it's ideal as, adding or building and adding ADUs to it, we add that in parentheses below. So when we factor this in as a build to sell, what's selling in the area really well is 2,400 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. A lot of times that 4th bedroom, you basically set it up as an office or bonus room. And then this is what our construction costs are for this. And this is with 2-car garage, a little bit extra deep 2-car garage. And then this is what you're in it all in for with the, this is the extra land cost per lot, the entitlement cost per lot, the development cost per lot, and the new construction per lot. So you're in this house for about, or each house for about 560,000. And then what we do here, so we do carry and loan costs. So basically, oh, by the way, when we go back to this development, so this is also factoring in doing carrying debt. So basically getting a loan on the horizontal. So if you own the land, if you're in the land essentially for free, most of our lenders are going to finance the horizontal construction 100%, and then they'll usually also cover any interest payments in there. So this is actually factoring in debt payment as well. So then we go to the vertical construction, and this carry and loan cost is basically the loan cost for carrying this construction costs through to the final. And then we have the sales price of 780,000. So there is actually a comparable that's just down the street a little ways, and there's also a neighborhood down the street that's actually an older neighborhood, but they're selling for even more money than this. So we think this is pretty conservative on the resale, but 780 for this size, and then your sales cost on that is factored in, and then your profit per house.
Was that comp sold, active, pending?
It was sold.
Okay, great. Because some people will just say, "Oh, this is what everything's listed for." I've seen it happen, so I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, 100%. Especially now, because a lot of stuff we're seeing, especially, you know, sometimes with new construction, they get overpriced and they sit on the market for a while and then they don't sell for a while. So if you're looking at just an active listing, I agree. It's a lot of times not accurate. So yeah, we just look at sold comps. And even if, so like an example too, is sometimes there's not great comparables. And so, so we look at a little bit older homes in the neighborhood, but still newer, and look at and basically look at what size house it is and what it sold for. And a lot of times your new construction is going to sell for more than that, but we're actually going to compare it to that older house. Okay, so ARV of existing house. So this is where we just transfer over that 925. We don't factor in doing any renovations to the existing house. I think it's sellable and livable as is. So you know, unless you're going to live there, or you want to put in a little bit of money to make it more appealing as an Airbnb, I don't, that's up to you. But 925, we think the value is no matter what. And then the sales cost for the existing house. This is the holding cost. So this is basically carrying a mortgage on it for 2 years while it gets entitled and developed. And then at that point, so once you have all the infrastructure in and you have the final plat signed, now you have individual lots that now you can sell or build on. And so we actually, on our strategy, we have you sell the original house off, and that basically gets your capital back. You also don't have to deal with having to, because so not to get too far into the weeds here, but when you get a mortgage on a property and you split land off, a lot of times, so that lender has to sign off on a partial reconveyance, and a lot of lenders sometimes are going to require that you make an additional large chunk payment in order for them to sign that, because their numbers change. And so basically, it just kind of, you might have to pay that to have them sign it, but then you just sell the house immediately and get all your capital back from it. Okay, so then we have additional rental income during that 2 years. So this is based on AirDNA data, what AirDNA says you can rent it for. This is over 2 years. So if you notice, you actually have a loss on this existing house if you go to sell it and you sell it for market value today and it doesn't improve at all. What I will say, in 2 years, you know, the way the market is, you know, trending right now, is more than likely this will be higher in 2 years, but we don't project that out. But if you basically just, you know, buy it and sell it for the same price, you have a loss here essentially because of these sales costs when you go to sell it. And then also you're at a little bit of a loss on an annual for the Airbnb. What I will say with AirDNA too, it's probably fairly accurate on this one, but sometimes, like when we analyze it for new construction, if we're designing a new construction house for an Airbnb, a lot of times you're going to outperform what AirDNA says, because it's optimized. We're optimizing the new floor plan and the new design as an Airbnb. So okay, and then we look at, if you refinance all the debt, or this is what your final debt is on it, on all 5 houses. So it's about 600,000 per house. That's factoring in basically having it all debt from the development on, and including interest costs. So most of the time, the deals work out where you'll actually finance the interest in the loan as well, and so it doesn't require as much out of pocket. What I actually added this literally this morning. So if you wanted to keep one of the units, because when you're doing multiple units like this is actually a great strategy to look at this as, okay, if you want to keep one of the units at the end, so you sell the existing house, build 4 of the houses, sell 4 of those houses, and then keep one of the houses, you'll actually get $39,000 of your original investment back, and then own that house for no additional debt. So essentially, you can own a house debt free. Now you still have capital in the deal at this point, but you get 39,000 of that capital back, and then now you own a house that you can rent or live in, and you don't have a mortgage payment on it. Okay, so we have the projected return. This is if you sell all the houses, so $473,000. So that's factoring in the profit on each house plus the loss on the existing house. So Yeah, so 473,000, this is the total capital invested. So this number can change based on your situation as well. So we underwrite these assuming 15% down on the original house. We originally did this as 25% down, and we can do that too if you're, if you want to do 25% down. But we have an investor that was actually able to get an investment loan with 15% down. There's no guarantee you can do that on this one, so we can change the numbers just based on what your investment strategy is and what kind of loan you can get. But basically 15, 20, 25% down can change this number a little bit. And then this is also factoring in paying for the extra land out of pocket per lot. So this is basically an extra 60,000 out of pocket because of that land. And then entitlement costs out of pocket as well. And then financing the horizontal and vertical construction.
Hey, Zach, real quick about your cycle times for construction.
Yep.
Those are factored into this because this is entitlements. I think when we spoke were about a year, right?
Yeah.
And then you have another, what's your time frame for horizontal for that?
Yeah, so we usually factor in a year for each phase, and I'll break that down a little bit. So entitlements can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. So we basically just sometimes longer. If it's hillside development, it could take 2 or 3 years. So we factor in basically the longer time frame on that. So ideally we have it 6 or 9 months, but factor 12 months. And then the horizontal development. Now this project itself, the horizontal development probably will, the actual physical construction will probably only take 3 or 4 months. But then you have to get the plat signed, and that it just takes time. It needs only 8 signatures, but each agency has to review it. You can only get 1 signature while you're actually doing the development. Everybody else has to sign it after it's done. Sometimes there's back and forth, and there's additional inspections that need to be made. So that plat signature can take another 4 to 6 months. And so that horizontal is typically, we factor in a year. Sometimes that's, that might be as short as, 7 or 8 months, but we just factor in a year just in case. And then the vertical construction. So typically, if we're going to build all 5 of these houses at one time, we can probably be from building permits to occupancy, we're typically 6 or 7 months. But then we also factor in extra, you have to get it on the market, they have to sell, they have to close. So we basically just assign it a year there as well. If you're going to, like on different projects, if your goal is to rent them out, so you're going to keep them all as rentals, then your exit is obviously faster. We still factor in a year just for to kind of pressure test it a little bit, but essentially if you're ready to refinance it as soon as you have certificate of occupancy, then that switches to like more of a half of a year.
Understood.
Does that answer your question fully?
It does. And then
Okay, cool.
You're factoring in what type of market time once the homes are actively being marketed. And at what point are you calculating that those would be active? Would it be once horizontal is finished and you begin vertical? I'm curious about the market time.
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. And I've talked about this before, but yeah, so when we are doing the horizontal, probably actually once we're done with the horizontal, so we know it's done, and then we're going through that waiting period of getting the plat signed, ideally we start marketing the houses as maybe even like getting some custom builds in there, so you can basically sell them and then kind of get some cash out of the deal on the front end there.
Sure.
But so we're actually gonna analyze the market at that point and look at it and say, okay, if we build all 5 of these, how long is it going to take to sell all 5? So we look at the absorption rate of new construction houses in the area. So if we build 5, how long is it going to take to sell all 5? So if there's if we think it's going to sell, if all 5 of them are on the market, if it's going to take a month to sell, so if it's going to be about 1 per month, what I would probably tell you is before we go vertical is let's not do all 5 at the same time, so you have extra holding costs. I would say let's stagger them. So let's start one. Once the framing is done on the first one, let's start the framing of the second one and stagger them so you're at least 2 weeks behind each one, if not 3 or 4 if the market absorption rate is 1 per month. If the market absorption rate is higher than that or slower than that, if they're going to sit on the market for a little while, if it's slower than 1 per month, then I would say let's do like 2 different phases. Let's build 2 and sell 2, or let's build 3 and sell 3. And then once those are sold, then let's build 2 and sell 2. Now, if you wait until they're sold and then build, that does add some time to it, but it basically helps you remain profitable, so you don't have houses sitting on the market forever. So that's something that we'll analyze right before we go vertical while we're waiting for that plat to be signed, and come up with a good strategy on how to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Going further on these, so this is so we have this out as 3 years. So again, if when it gets to year 2 and we're ready to go vertical, if we're like, oh, we're going to do this in 2 phases, this might end up being 3.5 years or close to 4 years. It just depends on what the market is doing at that point. And then we have the annualized return, this return based on how many years. So when you go to sell the original house, so once you have all the infrastructure in, you can sell the original house if your goal isn't to keep it to live in it, or it's probably not a great rental because you're cash flow negative. So this is getting your original investment back, or as much as possible back. So it's not the full down payment, but it's as much as possible. And then you have capital remaining in the deal at that point, and then your equity remaining in the deal. And then this is, so I added these 2 columns today. So this is taking that if you sell. So this is if your goal is to keep 1 unit. So this is the capital you'd get back. So that's taken off of this, and your capital remaining in the deal, and you still own 1 house, is 174,000. And then at this point, so if you just want to keep this house and keep your capital in the deal and just rent it out and cash flow from it, this is what what the rents look like in that area for a 4-bedroom. And so this new construction payment, so that you're not going to have a payment, but this is basically your taxes and insurance calculated over on average per month over a year. And this is based on comps in the area for property taxes, and then what we think that the insurance is going to be based on previous quotes we got. So this is like an annual charge, but broken down per month, just so you can see more like your cash flow. So this would be your monthly cash flow based on having no debt on it and having 174,000 capital still in it. Now, what I will say too is at this point, so you have a $780,000 house. If you don't necessarily want the cash flow, but you want to get all your capital out and leverage this as much as possible, let's say you leverage it at 75%. So if I take 780, I'm going to do this on my calculator on my phone here. So 780 times 75%, so 585. So you can actually theoretically take out 585,000 from that 780. You're paying yourself back this 174,000, and on top of that, getting $400,000 in gains. That's actually debt, so you're actually not paying. Well, I won't say this outright. I'm going to say talk to an accountant, but that's debt that you're taking out. So $400,000 now that you basically have in debt on the house, and then you can still most likely cash flow on that. So so essentially or break even. Let's say you're just break even at 75% loan to value, but essentially you've made all your money, you have all your capital out of the deal, plus got $400,000. So now you can go do this deal twice because you got your capital back. You do another one of these deals plus that $400,000 that you leveraged out. You do that on another deal and do this twice now, 3 years from now. Cool. So that's this deal. Anybody have any questions with this deal specifically before I jump to anything else?
And your interest expense is factored in at what percent?
Yeah, so it's factored in at a total of 20% for 2 years for the horizontal. So that's basically 10% per year. And then the only thing that's not factored in there is like if you have to pay points on that or whatever. So that might be up or down, or you might just choose to pay those points out of pocket. And then it's factoring in 12% total on the vertical. And that's basically, again, that's usually about a year of interest. So if we get out of the deal, you know, if you build them and sell them and you're out of them sooner than a year, that would be lower.
Got it. And that's built in, right? You already built that in.
Yeah, that's built into all the numbers. So you have 20% interest on horizontal, which should cover about 2 years, and then it's a year of interest in the vertical, and that's factored into all the numbers. So there's plenty of margin here for, you know, unexpected things, but also for, you know, if the market changes for the worse, there's definitely good margin there for that too. And then obviously what we don't do is project out, like, if there's going to be 5% increases every year, that could significantly change this number for the positive. One thing that we do further during due diligence, just for our own purpose, for my guarantee purpose, is I actually pressure test it. So I look at, you know, what happens if construction costs go up? What does that look like? And then also, so we factor in like 4% inflationary costs on our construction costs. Then we also factor in if the market goes down by a certain percentage a year. So we just do that during pressure testing. Number one, for our guarantee purposes, but also number two is just to make sure that you know, we are being as safe as possible on these deals for you guys. And we'll share that stuff with you too. So like we'll say, okay, this is what it looks like if you have 4% increase in cost per year on construction. And, you know, let's say it's a 3 or 5% downward trajectory on the new home construction prices, or sorry, new home resale prices. Okay, I'm going to move on to some other deals unless anybody has anything that they want to jump in with. What I do want to cover, so we have another couple of these smaller subdivisions. There's one in Garden City. So this was our deal of the week back at the beginning of November. So this is another one that's the purchase price is pretty good. So, you know, I love Garden City. Like it's, you know, there's still, you know, all kinds of trailers and everything, but it's getting redeveloped like crazy. The nice thing about, you know, parts of Garden City is the entry level is just so low, and the resale is still pretty good, even if it's surrounded by trailers. I have my own project that we're selling right now, or we just sold a house. It's surrounded by 3 trailer parks, and I still have a 2,000 square foot house that sold for $650 just now. So you still get high resale prices on the tail end, but your land prices are just so cheap. And because it's high density, urban, it's all zone medium density, so 35 units an acre, so you can get a lot of units in there. The infrastructure costs per lot are really low. So the profitability is pretty crazy on Garden City. So that's this deal, this Ray Street, if anybody wants to look at that further. And then there's another one similar to it on Zinnia that I think was also a deal of the week a couple weeks after that. It's about the same size. A little bit lower entry price. I think we had actually 2 less units on this, but still good profit margin there. Lower entry price on that. And then there's other deals in Garden City too. So there's some big deals over on the Whitewater Park area. So if you want to stay, like those 2 deals, I think we're both kind of in the not so developed parts of Garden City. One's west of Veterans, the other one was just east. But if you're, you know, if you have some more capital to play with, we have this stuff over. This is literally right next. Both of these are right next to, or sorry, not this one. It's this one and this one. Both of these are right next door to the Push and Pour and the Casino Beach area. And these are, you know, not bad entry prices. This was a deal of the week back in October, and this had some really strong potential. I actually have this on a separate spreadsheet. So if anybody's on this call or watching this that wants to look at these, that maybe, you know, has more capital and is looking for higher returns, not necessarily percentage wise, the percentages are usually pretty similar, but like basically you're just working with larger money. Or if you just don't want to deal with you know, those more up and coming areas, this is already, you know, pre-developed out in this area. So these are good ones as well. This one came on the market this week. I haven't fully analyzed this yet, but they're way overpriced. This isn't even approved. It's conditionally, or sorry, it's like pre-approved from city council, but they don't have any civil engineering. So it's not developed or anything, and they're asking developed land prices, so that we'll keep an eye on that, but that's way overpriced. And then I thought this one actually just came on the market this morning on 5th Street on the north end. This one could be a pretty good deal, or if anybody's looking specifically for the north end deals, there's not a lot of deals that come up on the north end, but what's tricky about this one is so it's 2 separate lots already. So theoretically, you could just go in and build 2 separate houses. I think on one of the lots that's never been built on, you're gonna have to go through hillside, because it basically, like, the hillside kind of ends right there. And so we factored that expense in. But then if we did 3 separate lots, so one of the larger lots you could split in 2, and that's what this profit is for that. But again, we factored in some extra costs for having to go through hillside, I think, on those, even though the buildable portions of this are, especially on the larger lot, it's definitely flat, and there used to be a house there. On the smaller lot that's separate, the hillside kind of ends there, so more than likely there's going to be some hillside development that we'll have to go through, and then extra costs associated with that. So 2 lots doesn't look great. There's a look, and then 3 lots, it looks better, but there's not a whole lot of certainty as far as what needs to be done there. But if somebody's interested in the north end specifically, we can go dig deeper into this. Okay, I think there's not any other new deals on these single lot splits. If you guys are interested in any of these, some of these numbers look pretty good, but I've covered these further on in previous videos. So if you want to look at any of these specifically, I can go over them with you individually. We're kind of running out of time here, but or you can just rewatch some of my videos that are on YouTube already where we cover those. Same thing with this one. This was the deal of the week at the end of October. And I think that's about all that I want to cover today. I'm going to stop the recording here, and then we'll go into any questions.